I feel like a lot of this comes down to communication. Each of you have talked a little bit about that. And I want to go to you, Fernanda, and ask about what that communication looked like with your partner, where you brought up this notion of maybe we should try something a little different.
Yeah, by the time I met Seth, we actually met at Burning Man. So I think that also contributed to us being like super open and honest from the beginning. We met like by the end of the week. So we were both coming from a very like open space. And, you know, the second night we met, we already felt like this was something really special. Sometimes that doesn't last after Burning Man, but in our case it did. So we were just like putting everything on the table. And again, at that point, I had friends that were open. I wasn't non-monogamous in a primary relationship, but I was already having friends with benefits that knew about each other. And I was already clear that that's what I wanted. And when I brought it up, he said, you know, I'm open to it. And, you know, we'll figure it out. And then about like a month after we met, he was actually living in San Francisco. I was living in New York, and we were visiting each other. And at some point he was like, hey, do you want to be my girlfriend? Which I found adorable because I hadn't been asked that since high school. But I was like really into him, like feeling like this was really right. And I just said yes. And then about like 15 minutes later, I was like, hold on 1 second. Does this mean that I cannot have sex with other people? Is that what being a girlfriend means? And he was like, yes. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I can make that sacrifice. But I could do that because I knew from the beginning that he was open to it down the line. He was very clear. He said, right now, I don't feel ready for that, but I want to give you what you want. I don't know if I can, but I will try. So obviously the first time I went to a play party, the first time I went on a date, he was having a difficult time, but he honestly is amazing and never put that jealousy or that like discomfort on me. He did say, okay, I'm feeling a little bit like I don't want to be close to you when you come back from dates, for example, because I'm having a hard time. So then we agreed that when I'd come back from a date, which like for me was the opposite. I was just like,
You want to tell all the information.
Yeah, I was just like on cloud nine from meeting a new person. And then, you know, interestingly enough, that sexual energy, that new relationship energy, as people call it, actually comes back to my primary relationship. So I'd want to connect, you know, and even if we didn't have sex, I want to like be close and cuddle. And he'd be like, okay, I need a little bit of more time to reconnect after you come back from a date. So it was a lot of trial and error. We decided that I was going to give him time. And then, you know, now it's not really an issue, but then I always recommend people to do it that way, because if we had just started open right away, he might have had a lot of jealousy, insecurity, a lot of difficult emotions, and it would have been a lot more difficult to actually get where we wanted to go, because there would have been a lot of missteps and then repair and all of that. Although some people argue that you should start open right away if that's what you want, which I think if you have experience with non-monogamy, if you both have experiences with non-monogamy, that can also work potentially. But the way it worked for me was to go very slowly, reassess, talk about feelings, and move from there.
I just feel like it might be so hard if both, like, coming to an agreed definition and understanding about how you want to see non-monogamy. I can see that, like, it takes those early conversations. It takes figuring out what the parameters are, figuring out what your boundaries are. And so, Manuel, was it easy once you started pursuing non-monogamy to be open and honest and transparent about your feelings of like, that's okay with me and that's not okay with me, depending on what it was from those partners?
Yeah, it took a while. And the other part was I was dealing with two people who had gone through that process and had figured it out for themselves. Like, so they knew what worked for one another, what parties they go to, what was allowed and what was not allowed. So by the time I came in, there was like no rules. Like they were very like, you can do whatever you want. A lot of it was sexual. Like we don't, romantic and dates, like those are not really things that the three of us partake or are interested. I think also because there's three of us, so they're like, there's just enough just to scheduling a date between the three of us is hard enough. That like trying just to like
Like a
factor
free
in someone
Thursday
else.
at 3, but then
Yeah.
don't quite know where that fits in.
Yeah, but trying to figure out what I was comfortable with, that maybe the two of them had figured out worked for them. And then I would be like, oh, actually, like I get pangs of jealousy, but I don't want to disrupt what the two of them had achieved. So it was a little bit of trial and error about like what I was very comfortable with, one of them doing, or the two of them doing, because the two of them also approach non-monogamy, what they like outside of the couple or the throuple, very differently. And as it happens, like the three of us look for different things outside. And so trying to figure out what worked and what made me jealous about one, or made me jealous about the other, or made me uncomfortable. And I think the thing I kept coming back to is like, it's okay to be jealous. It's not okay to make that jealousy that's someone else's problem, right? Like I can have those feelings. I can have feelings of fear, of anxiety, of inadequacy, of jealousy, like, but learning to not lead with those and learning not to act on those instinctively took a while, because I was so used to operating on those, like feeling jealous and then like lashing out or being angry or having that thing be the way that I like then talk about that relationship or that moment, and using sort of language like, you made me feel jealous. And it's like, no, the jealousy is coming from me. What does this mean? Is it because I'm insecure? Is it because I need more cuddling? Is it because I need more reassurance? Is it because I felt like you were choosing someone else over me? And it took a while to sort of learn the language. I feel like it still happens to us. Like sometimes, none of this is perfect. None of it is like you don't get a diploma and say like, okay, now you're great at being poly.
You made it happen.
You did. No, it's sort of every single time is something different, and I have gotten better at it.